Hello, everyone. A full week of football is finally in the books. I'm Dan Vasco. Welcome to the Football Lounge. And of course, as you see, Mark Hespin is not here with us today. He's a bit under the weather, so we're hoping he feels better soon, but prioritizing some rest and him getting better. So he's not here on the week one show. Trust me, he would love to be here right now, but hopefully we get him back next week and we're off and running. But in his place, we are joined by a good friend of mine. We go way back, Mr. Jay Foster of ESPN 1170 AM in the Quad Cities. Of course, the Iowa-Illinois border there, covering both states and all sports, but you guys focus on a lot of pro sports as well. A weekly talk show every day, noon to 2 Central. Great stuff, and happy to have you on the show, Jay.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and the text was a great start of my day to read that, to say like, hey, I need someone to come on. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do this. Week one has been incredible. A lot of things to talk about. I think we're all just excited to see fans in the stands. And also, is this going to continue? Is the underdogs going to go 12-4 again next week? I don't know. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of road teams winning to start this one as well. So yeah, a very interesting start to the NFL season, and a lot of interesting storylines already forming coming out of this one as well. But before we get all into it, Jay, what is worse than losing? How about losing twice? And that's what the Ravens did last night. I mean, what a crazy ending to a Monday night game. Brutal for the Ravens. You finally get that hope inserted in there, but then some late game blunders, particularly by Lamar Jackson, which you didn't expect was going to be the guy that lost the game for the Ravens. But in the end there, it certainly was the case. What a wild finish. I mean, what were you thinking when you're watching that game?
The wildest part about it was that when it's actually over, Gruden wouldn't take off his headphones because he didn't even think it was over, because the Braylon Edwards catch before, when they thought it was over, they go to do the review and he's down at the 1. So even Gruden was like, I don't think we got it. And then he goes around and gives high fives to everybody when he finally is like, all right, I'll believe him. So it was crazy.
yeah, it's a wild sequence of events there. And, you heard the ref. I assume the fans must have heard as well when he's like, the game is not over. We are reviewing the play. And yet none of the players on the field seemed to care or hear what was being broadcast throughout the stadium. What a wild sequence of events there to end the Monday night. But this is our week one NFL recap. So let's get to it here on the Football Lounge. All right, Jay, so let's start with that first game there. Let's start with the Monday night game, I should say, the most recent, between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the NFL season began with a wild game that kind of went down to the wire, and it ended the same way. So kind of an interesting dynamic there between the Thursday night game and the Monday night matchup. What were your takeaways here from Monday night after it's a back and forth affair? Kind of some sloppy play mixed in there as well. But in the end, it is the Las Vegas Raiders that come out on top in overtime with a touchdown pass there from Derek Carr to Zay Jones.
Well, I think the most important thing is welcome to the NFL, Las Vegas. It's the first game. And I know they were there last year, but it's the first time Las Vegas has had fans in the stands during this. So it's a great Monday night football game. Good for them to showcase. Tough division that they're in, and it was a big win against a quality team. I mean, obviously, Ravens are down. Their running back situation is crazy. And, Lamar Jackson is going to have to take care of some of the things, but I'm not too shocked by it. I think the most important thing is the 385 yards or 435. What was it? 435 that Carr put up?
I double checked that right here. It looks like, yes, 435. You are correct. Two touchdowns, one interception.
That's the crazy one to me, that he got to do that on a Ravens defense. So I know there's some overtime involved there, but we brought up Bryan Edwards in the opener and the down to the 1, and those are the type of things you need to look at for like the different receivers, because it can't always be Waller for the Raiders.
Yeah, and Waller started off pretty slow in this game. I think he had like one catch for 7 yards or something like that for quite some time, and then he just completely unleashed in the second half, and even helped make some plays in overtime as well. So He's obviously a big part of that, but to your point, I mean, the Raiders are going to need a lot of their other weapons to step up. Henry Ruggs had a couple really big plays. I mean, that's what we were kind of looking for last year with the first rookie wide receiver taken in the draft.
Mhm.
And he had an underwhelming season, but he had some big plays in this one. You mentioned Brian Edwards with a clutch catch, almost scoring the game winner there at the end, but they needed to wait a little bit longer to get that final touchdown sealed. Nonetheless, surprising win there for the Raiders. I mean, I was high on the Ravens to win not only the AFC North, but to get the 1 seed here in the AFC. Not a good start for them against an AFC opponent, and one that, most people considered relatively inferior. And I was pretty low on the Raiders. This is a big win for them, just in terms of the John Gruden era as well. I'm pretty surprised at kind of how quickly they were able to jump out on the Ravens in this one. I mean, it didn't take too long for it to appear that, both were going to kind of go neck and neck, 0-0 for quite some time. So surprising victory there for the Raiders, 33-27 over the Baltimore Ravens. And we're going to just rifle through a lot of these games from their week 1 matchups and give you our thoughts. So after Monday night, I'll kind of go down the slate here, going in order from what ESPN here has on their website, Jay. So let's start with the 1 o'clock games. We'll start with the Steelers-Bills. Steelers come out with a 23-16 victory over the Bills in somewhat surprising fashion. Josh Allen throwing 51 times, but held the 270 yards and just the 1 touchdown. Stephon Diggs didn't score in this one either and held fewer than 70 yards. What were your initial takeaways after seeing the Steelers start off strong on the road in Buffalo?
I think the most important thing was to see what Matt Canada was going to do as a new offensive coordinator, how he was going to do pre-snap movements to open up things for Roethlisberger. And then, you have Harris, who he was on the field for every single offensive snap. Yeah. That's a big deal for a rookie. Hopefully that holds up. But it really is about the Steelers defense, making those short passing plays to Stephon Diggs or Brown or Beasley, that they aren't going for larger gains. That was the biggest deal, I think, out of all of it. This is Roethlisberger's 36th fourth quarter comeback. It's a big deal. It was on the road. They were big road dogs. So I think it was a big statement game for the Steelers.
Yeah, a lot of people are mentioning too that it's one of those games where not just a statement win to start the season. Obviously, it's just September. You can't overreact to things, but this could potentially be one of those tie-breaking games that you need at the end of the year. So to have that in your back pocket to start the NFL season, not a bad way to go about things. Did this say to you more about Pittsburgh, or did it say more to you something about the Bills, or neither?
It said more about Pittsburgh because I really wanted to see what the new OC was going to do. I'm reading so many different conflicting things. You would know more than I would, Dan, about Big Ben. I had read before that the former OC and him and Big Ben were more like drinking buddies and didn't want to do much. But now I'm also hearing that Canada and him are really tight. So it's not like someone's coming in and being the contrarian to everything. I think he's just opening up more and saying, I'm just trying to protect you, and we're going to put points on the board, Ben. So I don't know. That's why I was trying to figure out the dynamic between the OC and Big Ben. And,
Sure.
and I think it was a big deal for the Steelers. Cleveland is the darling in that division. And then, with Baltimore going down, it could be something, like you said, it could be a tiebreaker game. So it's about the Steelers. It's actually more about week 2 with the Bills going down to the Dolphins, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game too. Obviously, division implications there, and Miami's chomping at the bit to get back out and get another win as well. So yeah, very interesting week 2 matchups that we got on the slate coming up too. But yeah, to your point, Matt Canada, he's calling plays from the booth, which Roethlisberger's not used to. He's used to going on the sidelines talking to his OC, so that's a little bit different. But yeah, they're much closer than I think maybe even people give them credit for. And he was there last year, so there is some familiarity. Even if it's just on the short term there. Moving on to another game here, the Eagles and the Falcons. Philadelphia, 32-6 over Atlanta. I wasn't high on Atlanta coming in, but I wasn't high on Philly either. And Atlanta's offense really just couldn't get over the hump, couldn't get those third down conversions in the bag. And the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, I mean, what were your takeaways here from how he played and how the Eagles really were able to manhandle the Falcons with their new head coach? But hey, the Eagles got new head coach too. So, a lot of newness in this matchup.
Eagles look fast. All right. And that division that they're in is up for grabs for any of those 4.
Yeah.
As far as Atlanta goes, boy, Arthur Smith, great OC from what we saw down in Tennessee. Did not put a lot of points on the board in this game. And Eagles, the preseason was all going to be about their offensive line and defensive line. If they're healthy, they both are possibly top 5, possibly. Now Atlanta, they have new weapons, and they have old with Calvin Ridley, not too old, but it was the Kyle Pitts, and what's it going to be? They just didn't show much. A lot of Mike Davis, and is Mike Davis going to be, the new Derrick Henry for Arthur Smith? We don't know. It just didn't look good for Atlanta.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a rough sledding for them. They're going to have to figure something out soon. But, it's a relatively competitive division there. Atlanta, you were hoping maybe could take another step forward after having a really down year. But it looks like this team may be a year or two out from, once again, being in the conversation to compete within the division, let alone for the playoffs. Vikings at the Bengals. This one goes to overtime as well. Some really close games to start this week 1 slate, and the Bengals are the ones that come out on top, 27-24. Kirk Cousins puts up over 350 yards passing in this one. Jamar Chase, a lot of eyeballs were on him. How's he going to fare in his first game with his, college quarterback and Joe Burrow? And by all accounts, things look pretty good. Joe Burrow throws for 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. It was the Joe Mixon show as well. Overall, Bengals offense looked good. I think even though the Vikings made it close and put up 24 points, they didn't look too hot for pretty much in any phase of this game. What were your initial thoughts on how the Vikings fared, how Kirk Cousins looked with this team, and how Joe Burrow looked after coming off of, obviously the knee injury and a lot of expectations to start this year?
You know how every preseason you hear more of the beat reporters talk about they're in the best shape of their life. They came in prepared for this year. And it's like every single player.
Yeah, everyone looks amazing, right?
Yeah. You also need to look at some of the truth when you have something like the Vikings where the clubhouse is completely just torn over COVID or vaccinations, or the coach goes, I don't know what to do. I asked him to get vaccinated. I can't tell them what to do. They're grown men. And then we should have known ahead of time this, because then their actions on the field, they're nonverbal. Looks like a team that just hates each other. They hate their coach. They hate each other. They don't trust each other. Even though Kirk Cousins put up those numbers. I mean, he's got the weapons. He's got Jefferson. He's got Cook, and he's not a bad quarterback. And then the Bengals coming off Burrow with a knee injury, and they come out and do this in overtime. And on top of it, Zach Taylor almost looked like he wanted to just tie the game. Throws out Evan McPherson, a rookie, and he's like, go kick like a 51-yarder. I mean, it was like, we'd rather tie than win, but I guess we'll take the win. And the Vikings like, we don't want to win either. It was crazy to me. Mike Zimmer's on the hot seat, period.
Yeah, he's the one really coming into this year that I felt absolutely needed to produce, because it's not just so much that he's the guy that's had the worst teams. There have been plenty of other coaches that have done worse. I think relative to expectations and relative to roster makeup, he was the guy that had a team that should have competed more and better than they have been. So yeah, I mean, to your point, to start the year off in this fashion, albeit overtime, it's still a loss. And to start 0-1, not looking good so far for the Vikings, and especially with their defense last year. Started off poor, ended poor as well. They needed to get back to the Mike Zimmer defense that we know, and didn't look great in this one either. So we'll see kind of how things pan out moving forward with this one. Moving on to the 49ers at the Lions. Crazy game in this one, Jay. The 49ers were all over Detroit for the majority of this game, but some sloppy play late. They give up an onside kick. Then there's like a fumble that the Lions recover, and all said and done, the Lions are with the football with like 30 seconds left to actually potentially tie the football game. But 49ers hang on for the 41-33 win. A lot of running in this game. Trey Lance gets his first touchdown as a rookie. He gets thrown in there for some random, package plays there, kind of like Justin Fields. We're going to just throw him in for a play here or there. How'd you think the 49ers looked in this one? I mean, were you almost concerned by how they finished this game, or were you like, well, that's fluky at the end? Really, they dominated and they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you can actually, I don't care if it's Detroit, I don't care if it's Jacksonville. You just chalk this one up like it's never easy to win on the road. And they did, and they took the foot off the gas. And on top of it, a little tweet by Schefter before the game about how they traded up for the third round pick, and they didn't take who they wanted to take because they fell in love with Trey Lance. Little things like that can always shake up. I didn't like that tweet. Does not sound like the 49ers at all to me. The type of front of the house that I think of is that they don't let those things leak. So maybe a little bit here and there, but they got the W. It doesn't bother me at all, and it is what it was to me.
Yeah,
I didn't think too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Detroit actually looked good. Like they impressed me quite a bit in this game for just how they competed and didn't give up down the stretch. And it's easy if you're the Detroit Lions to go, oh, here we go again, to start the year, and we're getting manhandled. But they kept at it, and TJ Hawkinson looked great. He's probably going to be peppered with targets throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
To your point about the 49ers in that front office, it's hard to really trust anything that comes out of San Francisco, because even all the beat reporters throughout the offseason were talking about how Trey Sermon's looking amazing and how he's the guy that's the clear number 2. And then we find out he's actually a healthy scratch to start this game. And they end up going with guys like Elijah Mitchell and JaMychal Hasty. We just got news actually right before we went on the airwaves here that Raheem Mostert was put on IR and initially was 6 to 8 weeks. Well, now Mostert announced it is a season-ending injury. So now here we are again with a 49ers backfield that's probably going to include 3-4 guys throughout the season. But the point is, those Kyle Shanahan schemes, really anyone you can plug and play and make it work. So we're expecting to probably see quite a few guys come out of that backfield. But Mostert, again, just struggling to stay healthy. It's a bummer for the guy who late in his career finally had a chance to be the guy, the lead back on a team that's dominant at running.
Yes.
Moving on to the Cardinals and the Titans, a game that probably is on the short list of games that completely shocked me. The Titans just putting up a dud here, 13 points in a 38-13 romping by the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray all over the place, tosses 4 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins looked amazing. Christian Kirk even getting in on the action. They got so many weapons there in Arizona. But really, Jay, I don't know about you, but for me, while I think this showed how good Arizona is in terms of their offense and how maybe Kyler Murray's taken that next step, it was equally as impressive on the defensive side with Chandler Jones recording 5 sacks, absolutely dominating a great tackle in Taylor Lewan. But really, the most surprising aspect of this was just the Titans here. I mean, 200 yards passing for Ryan Tannehill. Not awful on the stat sheet, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, but he didn't look good at all. This offense looked very stale. Derrick Henry held a fewer than 60 yards. It's very uncharacteristic of what to be Tennessee Titan football against a team that really, in terms of the Cardinals defense, we didn't come in thinking this is a top 5 defense, coming into the season. Mm-hmm. Titans really struggled in this one, Jay.
Yeah, and maybe it's the curse of 270 or 370 carries for Derrick Henry back to back. Yeah. That's kind of the thing. And is his legs there? I mean, he had back-to-back 2,000 rushing yards. Losing Arthur Smith, the OC. Defense for Cardinals that's incredible. Chandler Jones. What do I take away from this? Interesting to see what Tennessee is going to do this week. Are the Cardinals going to continue to do this? Is Kyler Murray going to be healthy? Yeah. Look at the numbers from the Hail Murray game last year. What happened after that? He looks good right now. Looks like an MVP candidate. So does Chandler Jones. So you can't, the Tennessee one gives you pause, of course. But right now it's more like, man, Cardinals, good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great win for them. And, it is, overreaction Monday has come and gone. So really it's just, hey, it's week 1 and we'll see kind of what happens. I think we'll get a much better idea, 4 or 5 games into the season, what this means for the Titans moving forward. But obviously, Tennessee with a team that really, was staring down a division pretty handily outside of some competition from Indianapolis. So, if this was in the NFC West, which by the way, everyone started 1-0, which you have to. If this was the NFC West, I'd say, man, Titans already in a little bit of trouble because you don't want to start behind the 8 ball. But Tennessee, has plenty of time to turn things around. But yeah, Arizona putting up 38 points in the opener.
There's another division that went 1-0 also.
That is very, very true. And we'll get to that shortly. But the Seahawks and the Colts is next up on the list here for us. A 28-16 victory for the Seattle Seahawks. Pretty underwhelming game, I guess, in total from my perspective. However, it did, Russell Wilson looked good. And this is a really, really stout Colts defense with one of the best linebacking cores in the league. Phenomenal defensive line, especially with DeForest Buckner there. And then, really a back end that has some talent as well. I mean, really just a sound front and a sound defense. And Russell Wilson made look silly. He has 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Tyler Lockett, a monster game from him as well with some just huge plays. Overall, Seattle, I think just really, like we talked about, had to keep pace here with the rest of the NFC West that, as we mentioned, all went 1-0. So, are you worried about the Colts here? Obviously, with the Titans starting 0-1, the Colts are 0-1 too. So you're probably not pressing the panic button. No one's even taken the lead in the division yet in terms of anyone that we think is going to be a force. But just the lack of continuity that the Colts seem to have. Carson Wentz really seemed to be slow. Were you one of the guys coming in that thought Carson Wentz was going to have a resurgence here, or did a game like this reinforce maybe your beliefs that maybe he wasn't going to, be as much of a force?
Only because of the division did I think that the Colts were going to be there. I thought it was going to be between them and Tennessee. Carson Wentz, when you have a injury of a floating bone that you've had from an injury from high school that eventually it was going to come up no matter what, when you're, might miss 5 to 12 weeks and you come back, you're going to be a little bit slower to your step. Seattle, I was surprised winning on the road. As far as like spread goes, they in their last 6 home week 1 games, they're 0-5-1 against the spread. But honestly, if there isn't another quarterback in the league and he's in the AFC West, Russell would be considered Mr. September. But there's another quarterback who's never lost in his career or thrown an interception in September. He plays in the AFC West. So yeah. Russ doing Russ things, they're letting him cook. The thing is that's the thing about Seattle. Let Russ cook, and you hear it on and on and on. And then something happens out there, and it's about week 9 or week 13, and they're like, no, we're just going to run the ball, and we're not going to let Russ cook. And it's because usually their offensive line, they're worried about keeping them healthy for a playoff run.
Yeah, so, really, it is going to be about striking that balance and seeing throughout the year, because we saw the first 8 games last year, Russell Wilson looked like the de facto MVP candidate and really started to fall off. That whole offense really struggling and having pockets where they weren't able to really sustain any drives. Yesterday, they looked a lot more formidable. You hope, like, Chris Carson's got to stay healthy for this team to really be able to make a push in December and into January, because as you mentioned, the run game is just as important for this team to be able to kind of strike that balance. And that's where Russell Wilson, off of play action, one of the most dangerous guys. And that's where they get those deep passes, those deep shots to really capitalize. But a strong start for them. And as we mentioned, they really needed it. So 28-16 for Seattle, a nice victory to start the year. Let's go now to the AFC West, another division, as you mentioned, that went 1-0. We'll go with the Chargers at Washington. And this was a game coming in where I'm like, hammer the Chargers. I think it was -1 at the time that I said it. And I was like, first off, you're going to pick the Chargers to win and it's -1, then you might as well take the spread. Like, you're not going to money line a -1. At least I wouldn't. But the Chargers, it was still closer than I envisioned. But 20-16, Justin Herbert, all things considered, looking relatively good. The biggest thing I think, coming out of this one really was the Ryan Fitzpatrick. Everyone was ready for the Fitzpatrick show this year. A lot of excitement for some big plays with Terry McLaurin for this season. And then tragically, Fitzpatrick goes down in this game with an injury, likely out for at the very least a month. But I'm heard, anything could range from about 4 to 8 games, potentially even 9 or 10. So really, there's kind of a wide range of outcomes here. Taylor Heineke comes in. Dude's a baller. Obviously a third string, second string quarterback in this league. So you're not anticipating some great things out of him this season, but guy inserts some spark like he did in that playoff game last year. But overall, the Chargers come away with a 20-16 win. And Jay, I mean, this is really what the Chargers have struggled at in recent years is winning close games. This is something that's kind of been their motto, right? Let's just find a way to lose a game in the fourth quarter. But here they pull out a 4-point victory against a really good defense. And even though it's Washington, a team that, won the division with a losing record last year, still the Chargers found a way to win. Were you impressed by, how the Chargers looked? Do you think that they're a competent force in this division? Or in your mind, is this still just like the Chiefs running away with it and, Chargers kind of eked out this victory?
No, I think the Chargers have weapons. Okay. This is traditionally, if you're into week 6 of the NFL and beyond, and actually you can go 2 and 3, but week 1, you're going West Coast to East Coast. You kind of have to throw that little thing in there as far as like gambling goes. By kickoff, it was actually the Washington football team was favored by 1. So that's why
right?
Chargers.
There you go.
Yeah. And first year head coach versus Riverboat Ron. Like I actually thought that this was the right play was actually going to be on the football team. But I do have the Chargers high as far as I have the Chargers in my top 10 for power rankings. I like all the weapons they have. Tough division, but I see them making the playoffs. I really do. So the win that there was needed, and it could have been more. They missed a field goal. Again, to your point, Dan, they seem to find a way to lose those close games. They have to make those field goals. They can't just that would have been 23-16. That's almost, I think they missed something else too. Almost they could have been up 2 scores at some point and they let them come back in. Yeah. Like I said, Heineke does this. So the Chargers came close to blowing another game and it wouldn't have been any difference than it was during the Anthony Lynn era.
Yeah, 31 47, 337 yards, a touchdown, and an interception for Justin Herbert in this one. Eckler did his job, especially for your fantasy owners. He was able to haul in, a few catches there, got a touchdown at 57 yards on the ground. It was a Keenan Allen day, really 100 yards and a touchdown he did not score, but he had 100 yards on 9 catches. So overall, this offense, looking pretty decent. And against one of the best, if not the best defensive front. You mentioned West Coast to East Coast. There are a lot of things that could have worked against them. They found a way to pull out a win. And, so you got to tip the cap to LA and they start the year 1-0 and keep pace so far in those division standings. It's going to get a little tougher with the schedule coming up, but for now they get a good win on the road. Let's go to the NFC South here, with the Panthers coming away with a victory at home against the New York Jets. It was somewhat of a revenge game, if you will. Sam Darnold with his new team getting to face off against his former team. Panthers, they didn't have to win pretty in this one. They won ugly, but they got the 19-14 victory. We saw, the rookie Zach Wilson in this game make some big plays, able to extend plays as well. He looked, athletic and flashy at times. Sam Darnold didn't look incredible, but, from my perspective here, Jay, the team really overall did what they needed to do to win the game in terms of how they played as a cohesive unit on defense and offense. Sam Darnold looked like he got more comfortable with this team. They utilized Christian McCaffrey, which is something obviously they're going to need to do throughout the season. He's probably the best player in the league, or on the very, very short list of best players in this league. And, Sam Darnold hooked up with Robbie Anderson, getting that rapport from their New York days early on with the touchdown there. On the flip side, as I mentioned, Zach Wilson, I thought, obviously he looked like a rookie at times, but there were more encouraging aspects of this game as well. And that connection with Corey Davis early on really seems to be something that's going to be a formidable unit moving forward. Maybe people are sleeping a little bit on the Jets here, Jay. Like, I had them, I believe, 4 wins coming into this year. And I'm thinking maybe it's, a bit too low. I know they lost this game, started out 0-1. But honestly, I was a little impressed by just kind of how they played. And the Panthers defense is a pretty good defense to go up against as a rookie quarterback. And I thought overall, Zach Wilson, for the most part, held his own. What did you take away from that?
I thought Zach Wilson was fine as a rookie quarterback. The main concern with the Jets going forward is losing their offensive tackle. So it's going to hurt them.
Out.
Yeah, so their best offensive tackle. That's going to hurt them moving forward. Like you brought up CMC, Christian McCaffrey. That's his 7th game of 75 rushing yards, 75 receiving yards. passes Walter Payton for third most now. He's at third most all time behind Priest Holmes and Marshall Falk. He's going to be it.
Pretty good company.
Don't get me wrong. I love the narrative. I love the Sam Darnold Bowl. That's what I call it. I'm like, I'm going to be watching this game. Everyone's like, why? Like, why not? The revenge game, they got to get after it. And maybe that's all he really needs, that Sam Darnold, just a guy that he can rely on. He doesn't need to force too much. And he had, what was this? There was some kind of weird stat, like he had like 234 yards passing in the first half, and he only had like over 230 yards passing once all last year against the Jets, for the Jets. So an entire game. So I think that's just what he needs. You mentioned the connection with Robbie Anderson. I'm not as big on the Jets as I think you are on this. They're going to get way lost in that division, and there's no way. I don't even think a third team's coming out of that division, and I think that's your 4 wins. That's something there. Maybe they can get to 6, but they're not going to see 500, or you can't in the 17 games. So, but I don't think
I'm definitely not high on them by any stretch. But I think maybe I view my 4-game prediction might be a little low given how they performed in this week. But nonetheless, it's not going to be a winning season for the New York Jets. But that's fine. It just get Zach Wilson these reps, grow as a team. Robert Saleh, rookie head coach as well. There's just a lot of learning curves to come out of this. But I thought Sam Darnold looked like he got more comfortable with this Joe Brady offense. I think the Panthers are going to be a real force this year. And so we'll see if they can kind of button up some things there that didn't look so great. But overall, positive start to the season for Carolina. The Texans, how about this? Texans come away not only with a win, Jay, but with a 37-point to 37-21 victory. I did not anticipate the Texans putting up 37 points, even if it was the Jaguars defense they were going up against. Trevor Lawrence, the prodigy coming out of college, the GOAT. A lot of people were ready to crown him in terms of college football, and what a prodigy he is. And look, he's amazing, and he's probably going to be really, really good in the NFL for a very long time. But I think people need to temper their expectations. This team in Jacksonville is just not a good team right now, Jay. I mean, they have a few weapons on offense. They have no offensive line. Their defense is completely shoddy at best. And then on top of it, you're dealing with a rookie quarterback. Now, granted, Houston, what do they have? Very much. But they had a veteran quarterback, and I think that showed at times. I think Tyrod Taylor was much more poised coming into this game, knew where he was going. They had a good game plan. And really, they just stomped Jacksonville here. Trevor Lawrence does finish with 3 touchdowns, Jay, but he also has 3 interceptions. What did you make of his performance? And did you feel like this is going to be the Texans' only win of the year? Are they going to go now? They're going to do what the Jacksonville Jaguars did last year, win the opening game, and then go 0-16 the rest of the way?
Absolutely, about the Texans. I talk about narrative. I love this game. This is a dumpster fire. I want to see what's going to happen. I mean, Tyrod Taylor, good job. He survived a needle to the lung. This guy's incredible. And then
strange
Trevor
career
Lawrence
he's had.
Absolutely. But Trevor Lawrence, what is going to happen here? He's never lost a regular season game in high school, never lost a regular season game in college. Now he comes out week 1. And how is this all going to work out? Is Urban Meyer is he going to mature? Not saying that he isn't, but by all accounts, kind of what you're hearing, into the NFL coach. And that's the one who's sleeping in the office. Or is he the guy who checks out and he's like, I'm just going to delegate authority, and you see it for the defense? We're just a few years away from Saxonville. What a great name that was for the defense. And now it's this, like the Texans put it up. I'm not surprised they won, because Jacksonville being so young and everything, and the Texans being the oldest by average age, I actually had the Texans winning this game. But by how many points, like you said, Dan, I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, they really did look, pretty well put together as an entire offense. And, what you just mentioned about Urban Meyer and how he's going to form with this team, it's a different animal, right? And they're going to have to, this was the narrative coming in. Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer are going to have to get used to losing, and it's going to be tough. This is going to be a really tough year. It's probably going to test their moxie and really see if they're in it for the long haul, because, the questions also were Urban Meyer, is he coming out of retirement yet again, just for a quick stint, in the NFL, or is this something where he's prepared to, have a losing season this year, maybe next year as well, and then finally turn the page? The de-evolution of Jacksonville has been fascinating to watch. A few years removed, as you mentioned, of Saxonville. And I believe there was a stat, every one of their first round picks since like 2011 was off the team by the end of their rookie contract. I mean, that does not bode well for any team, let alone a team that's picking high. I mean, you have to hit on some of these picks, and they did on some, but then they were just willing to move on and try and do this rebuild over and over again. They're really going to have to turn the page soon. But yeah, not the greatest start for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but the Houston Texans, starting off strong. Neither of us, I think, have penned them to win many more games, if any, the rest of the year. But nonetheless, they're able to get that win out of the gates. All right, back to the AFC West. Browns and Chiefs. What a game this was. 33-29. Chiefs come away with the victory once again. They were down by double digits once again. This is Patrick Mahomes. Basically, this is his safe zone. They feel more comfortable when they're down than when they're in the lead. We talked about this on your show yesterday, how they really are almost more favored to win a game if they're trailing. I mean, if they're down 10, if they're down 20, I'm like, oh, okay, now they're definitely going to win, because that's just what they do. And the Browns did what the Browns do and what they've done for quite some times, which is give games away late by, mental errors or not being able to make the big play. Baker Mayfield was relied upon in that fourth quarter, and they weren't able to get it done. Was this more about the Chiefs doing what the Chiefs do, or the Browns doing what the Browns do? Or was it just both coming together at the perfect time for Kansas City?
You just said it. It's a little bit from column A. It's a little bit from column B. The Browns, with the Nick Chubb fumbling, the interception at the end. Baker looked good for the first half, first three quarters. But then I already mentioned Mr. September. 11-0 in September. 35 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions for Patrick Mahomes in September.
It's crazy.
It's one of those things like that. The Chiefs doing their thing, does not care from behind. By the way, if you're doing in-game wagering, always pay attention to the Chiefs score and see if you can get in there and get some plus money. The Browns are going to be good. All right. Obviously, the biggest thing, the concern was the Chiefs and their offensive line. It's more about now their defense, I think, if you're looking at the Chiefs. The Browns are going to be good. Start looking at over-unders every time the Chiefs are playing. But just like you said, the Browns just need to get out of their own way. I think Stefanski's a good coach. Obviously, Andy Reid's a good coach. He's a Hall of Famer. But it is a column A and column B. If the Browns could have pulled this off, it would have been great. We would all be talking more about the Browns being in power rankings as high as can be, in top fives. And now they're, maybe outside the top 10 looking in power rankings. I mean, they are what they are. They're all overreaction. But the Chiefs are just incredible. Like I said, Patrick Mahomes, he's a cheat code, period.
Yeah. That combination of him and Tyreek Hill as well is one that just, I mean, that touchdown to Tyreek when Patrick Mahomes rolled right. This was, late in the game when they're trying to, formulate that comeback, and just the connection they have is unbelievable. And then obviously you insert Travis Kelce and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Mecole Hardman. They got weapons all over this place. So Kansas City just looked like Kansas City. And, the Browns actually surprised me early on how they jumped on top of Kansas City early and really, set the tone. The problem for them was, as we mentioned, finishing things off. So the Browns are going to be fine. They're still a playoff team in my eyes, but it's really about them playing better in the fourth quarter. And maybe a game like this is what Cleveland needed to, have that wake-up call early on and be able to switch course and improve things moving forward. Let's go to the Dolphins and the Patriots, obviously an AFC West divisional game right out of the gate. And it was the Mac Jones, opening game. A lot of eyes were on him, of course, after the Cam Newton release, him getting the start. A lot of people wondered how he was going to look. And then obviously Tua, is he going to take that evolution, that next step with Brian Flores here in company? And overall, kind of a boring game for the most part, but Dolphins end up coming out on top with a 1-point victory in the end, 17-16 over the New England Patriots. Obviously Damian Harris, we'll see if he gets rolled out there. We know Bill Belichick does not take kindly to anyone fumbling, and Damian Harris, a costly fumble late in this game when the New England Patriots were pretty much ready to ice the game with either a field goal or a touchdown, but he fumbles. Dolphins hang on, get that win. I mean, what did you think that the Dolphins played well enough to win? Do you think the Patriots gave it away and that they should have won? And what do you think this says about both teams moving forward here?
Well, not really the Patriot way to fumbles or whatever else you mentioned, Harris, but there was also Stevenson. He had his. We never saw him again the rest of the game. Tua looked decent. I think we put way too much on Mac Jones. I mean, I get it. Previously, rookie quarterbacks in their first start ever under Belichick were 6-0, so now he broke that streak. But it's a lot on Jones. I know it's at home, and he does like the Patriot thing of not wanting the football after he throws his first touchdown pass. But I mean, the Dolphins are legit. They're good, and it might just be their time. I mean, I think the over/under for season wins was somewhere around 8 or 9 for, not even lower than that for the Patriots. Some Patriots fans had them at 11-6, so they already had this one penciled in as a win. I think this is just. I think the Dolphins are a good squad, and another one of those ones that we mentioned that maybe a few years out, but if they can put together something, they can show what's going to happen in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Mac looked pretty good overall. I mean, he looked poised in the pocket. He didn't look too flustered. He was taking the plays that were given him. It's very much a Bill Belichick type quarterback. I think it's going to work out in the long term for New England. But as you mentioned, it might be Miami's time, and this is kind of what they've been working towards. Brian Flores has put together one heck of a unit and really rebuilt the team very quickly. And especially that defense looked very, very good in this one as well. That's a tough task, even if you're at home, for a rookie quarterback to take on not only a coach that is a disciple of your head coach, but also one that's very defensive focused and one that, has put together such a, talented and, they don't miss tackles. They're very, buttoned up on that aspect of things. So Dolphins coming away with a very key win for them in this race, especially since Buffalo lost. Dolphins kind of get that head start in the division, which is big for them. They're the only one to win in the AFC East. So good start there for Miami.
Well, keep in mind though, real quick, Patriots defense is good, really good.
It's very good.
Look at unders for that. It's still a rookie quarterback. He's not going to be putting up like 30 plus points a game. Just keep in mind with the Patriots and their defense and the under bets.
Yeah, they're going to have to win games by running the football and getting some close victories. And we're talking about a defense that had, I think, 7 opt-outs just on that side of the football last year. So, people, recency bias are like, well, they weren't very good last year. Well, that's because they missed probably 7 of their best defensive players. Now they get guys back, and obviously J.C. Jackson is one of the best corners in the league too. So Patriots are going to be fine, but as you mentioned, going to be some tight games. So definitely be looking for some of those closer matchups throughout the season. The Saints absolutely put a hurting on the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers and company looking awful to start the year. It definitely seemed late in this game that Aaron was just, pissed and giving up and just tossing balls deep down the field to some New Orleans Saints instead of fellow Green Bay Packers. Jameis Winston tosses 5 touchdowns on fewer than 150 yards passing. That hasn't been done since like the 1940s. So a lot to come out of this game, Jay. 38-3 in favor of New Orleans. I thought New Orleans was going to be somewhat of a dumpster fire this year. I thought Jameis Winston was the right choice at quarterback for them coming into the season, but I still there's so many question marks surrounding the team. But man, defense looked good. The Green Bay Packers, does this say more about just what you miss from not playing guys in the preseason at all, and what you miss from having some of this drama that there's been, or was it just one of those classic Green Bay games where you're going to get 1 or 2 of those a year where they put up absolute duds and then they're fine the rest of the way? I'm thinking it's probably a mix of both, but I don't know. I'm not worried about Green Bay just yet.
I'm not worried about Green Bay, especially not in that division. I think Aaron Rodgers coming back and saying, I didn't play well, we didn't play well. There's 16 more games. That's reminiscent, I believe, of the 2018 relax, where they went on 5-1 after saying that, and they made it to the NFC Championship. So I'm not worried about them too much. But there is still that lingering effects of the off the field drama stuff. He's gone, and it still can't be good in the clubhouse. Now, I love that you brought up about Jameis Winston, and it really hasn't been done since the 40s. Like since 1950, he's got the lowest amount since they've been recorded in 1950, 148 yards, 5 touchdowns. If he continues doing okay, and we'll say, okay, 5 touchdowns looks great, but 148 yards, they had good field position.
Yeah.
Sean Payton become the next quarterback whisperer? Are we done with Bruce Arians? Is McVay not going to be that anymore? We have to think it's Sean Payton, right? If Jameis can take that, what he called that quote unquote, I'm getting my Ivy League education now that I'm at the Saints. This is what he said last year. And if he can apply it, and he was something really bad odds. I mean, long shot odds to win the MVP. And if he can come out and do some things, I mean, that's the story I'm looking at. Peyton just moves on from Breeze and brings this guy in.
Yeah, and at a major discount and value. It's sometimes it's the New England way, right? Grabbing as many veterans as you can get, unwanted players from other teams, and turning them into relevant players for a few years. That could be what we're seeing with Jameis Winston and Sean Payton. Obviously, we know Sean Payton's a phenomenal offensive coach. So, with that being said, we knew there was probably a higher floor for this team, and just in terms of that, plus they have Alvin Kamara, they have Michael Thomas, who will end up coming back midseason. So you felt like they're going to get their wins just because of those reasons, but you didn't anticipate Jameis Winston absolutely going off on what also is a pretty good defense. Like, I think coming in, Green Bay is not just a slouch. Like, they have pass rushers, and obviously, New Orleans got a break on that terrible pass interference, roughing the passer call on Zadarius Smith. That absolutely was not roughing the passer. Took a pick away from Green Bay and turned it into an eventual touchdown there for New Orleans. But nonetheless, yeah, if Jameis can, obviously 5 touchdowns a game is not sustainable. He's not going to do this every week. But if he is keeping, the ball in the hands of the offense, taking care of it, and getting a couple, efficient touchdown drives a game, and then, letting Alvin Kamara take the rest, if this defense can play the way they played against Aaron Rodgers and company, man, they might be looking pretty good. Now, I know we got, Marshawn Lattimore, might be out for an extended period of time, but regardless, it's a good start for the Saints there. I mean, you got Tampa Bay, you got Carolina, and now you got the Saints all going 1-0 to start the year in the South. And, New Orleans, just a good springboard into this season for them as well.
Can I add something more about the Packers? And Aaron Rodgers is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But if you ever look back at the stats where Aaron Jones rushes for 40 or more yards, just 40 or more yards, it's really impressive, their win-loss record. And looking at stats right now, he only had 5 carries for 9 yards. Good on the Saints defense on, hey, we're going to take away the running game, and which is surprising because you would think it's Aaron Rodgers that you need to take away from, but really they never established the run in anything. AJ Dillon had 4 carries, Hill had 5, Aaron Jones had 5, Cobb even had a carry, but 15 for 43 is what they got. Their longest rushing was 8 yards for them. So it really is about the Packers letting Jones create things for Aaron Rodgers. They took that away, and that's something that people aren't paying attention to.
Yeah, it seemed like they panicked, a little bit. It's like, we're already down. Like we gotta start slinging it, and then things just kind of spiraled out of control at that point. And before they know it, they're staring down a deficit too large to overcome. We get Jordan Love in this game because of it, who started what was it, the whole 4th quarter, I believe. So, not the way Green Bay wanted to start, but hey, at the end of the day, I mean, at least you got your backup quarterback some reps. I guess that's the one good thing you can take from this game, is you're able to throw them out there. So we have all of these young quarterbacks getting reps. Chicago as well, which we'll get to in just a moment, getting their guy on the field, only for a few minutes though, unfortunately. But before we get to that game, Jay, let's go real quick to the Broncos Giants. Probably not a whole lot to take away from this game. Neither team is going to be a team that we think is going to be in the playoffs this year. Giants offensive line looks like just the worst O-line I've seen in a very long time. And the Broncos look like they made the right choice in Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock. Teddy, 2 gloves, actually taking care of the football as he does. and getting a couple nice scoring drives in there. Jerry Jeudy, however, goes down with what appears now to be a high ankle sprain. He's got to miss at least probably 4 weeks, it seems, for that, if not longer. With those high ankle sprains, those can linger for quite some time. But overall, the Broncos taking care of business 27-13 over the New York Giants. Your thoughts on this one?
I agree with the Giants. For some reason, kind of like the Falcons, I thought the Falcons would be a little better this year. Right now, my overreaction will be like, what's going on with Falcons? Same thing with the Giants, where I was like, could they sneak in and win this division? Nah, absolutely not. I'll tell you what I did love. I loved at the end of the game, just a video shot of him. You can actually see the pictures of Teddy Two Gloves and the smile on his face to get that win on the road and just kind of like put the Drew Lock quarterback competition aside. And hopefully for the Broncos, it might be a short relationship because who knows with Aaron Rodgers out there. But Teddy Two Gloves is the 12th quarterback to start for the Broncos since Peyton Manning. And he's the only one that looked like a legitimate quarterback. I mean, Drew Lock was okay, but obviously he doesn't have the job anymore. So I think it was a win that they should have got on the road, and look forward to seeing what they're going to do after this. Tough division, period.
Yeah, that's a really tough division. And, that's why you got to start off hot. And September's the big month for that in that division. But yeah, look, Teddy, he's one of those guys that's had an interesting career himself, really bouncing around. Always a guy that you're like, you can win games with and that you're comfortable having in there. It's just never been a guy that's really stuck with one team or one system that's really believed in him. So for him to win this battle, I felt, good for him. Glad he can get out there and get that win on the road in that fashion. Drew Lock, one of those guys, there's just too much variance with what you get. With Teddy, you know what you're going to get week in and week out. And I think that was the big motivating factor in him winning this job. And he showed it here. Especially
he's a cover king, by the way.
What's that?
He's a cover king. He's like over 70% covering the spread as a starter.
Yeah,
it's insane.
There you go. Because he's that guy that constantly they always hang around. Teddy's teams always hang around because he's not throwing picks and he's not fumbling very often. No, he's not going to get you the 90-yard bomb downfield, but he's a guy that's going to dink and dunk and take what the defense gives him, and he's smart, and that could definitely cover a lot of spreads right there. All right, let's get to the Sunday night game. As we alluded to earlier, the Bears at the Rams. Early on, the Bears hung in there, and it was a close game, and then the Rams just slowly ran away with it. Matt Stafford in his debut in LA, 3 touchdowns, 20 for 26. One of the better games probably of his career, just in terms of efficiency and how they performed as a whole. Bears defense just looked like Swiss cheese out there, especially that secondary. At the end of the day, man, there's so many things to come out of this. It's the why not put Justin Fields in because he clearly gives you a much better spark. There's that. There's the why is Nagy not giving David Montgomery the football after he is just constantly efficient with his carries. There's the why did this team spend money on Jimmy Graham when they could have actually kept Kyle Fuller and other members of this defense? Just so many things exposed in this game for Chicago. I don't know what to make of it, Jay. I mean, for as good as the Rams were, and I think I feel validated, at least after 1 week, of my take on the Rams being extremely good this year, and I think they're going to win that division and be a huge force with Matthew Stafford. But I just felt so underwhelmed by what the Bears did. It was almost like, man, I didn't think it could be, this egregious, especially with how that defense performed. But here we stand today. Andy Dalton's the quarterback, and that defense is now possibly not one of the top units that we thought they were going to be and that they have been in years past.
The Dave Montgomery thing it's really big to me. One, I think
it's the most frustrating aspect to me more than the field.
100%.
Why can you not run the football? It doesn't.
Well, I think they're worrying about. Well, the thing is, I think they're worrying about keeping him healthy because that offensive line is so bad. They lost Peters or whatever else, the guy that signed up a fishing boat. He's like 42 years old. He's out, but Montgomery is keeping Dalton's job there because he's making him relevant because he's rushing for over 100 yards against a team that never gave up a single 100-yard rusher all last season. So that's a big deal. He's keeping Dalton's job there because now all of a sudden they're going to focus on Montgomery and Dalton can, pass the ball a little bit and make it seem like they're in this. And then Stafford, like you said, the Swiss cheese, He has the highest quarterback rating out of any team that's starting for any quarterback that started for a new team in their debut. He was out there. Those two guys, they look like from the day they traded for it that they ate in Cancun together, because they were both in Cancun on the day of the trade. Yep. And like they just mapped it all up. I'm like, yeah, what's week one? Let's just do this. And they're like, remember when we talked about it? Like, yeah, like, can you believe we're doing this? Like, yeah, it's so weird. It was that easy. So that's the way the defense looked. I'm not big on the Bears. Again, when is this all going to come apart together? The field thing? I've been saying all along, week 4 against the Lions, period. It's just not going to happen. The Bears are so stuck in their ways. Nagy is so stuck, and this is the plan. It's going to just hurt the franchise. It's going to hurt their 2021 season, and it's going to end up costing him his job. Yep. You don't come out in the middle of the summer and say Dalton's our QB1, and then backtrack and say, well, maybe we'll open up after week 1 of preseason. And then after week 2 or 3, be like, it's closed again. Andy Dalton's on there. Michael Lombardi said it best on the GM Shuffle. He just said, he goes, it's like saying we're lost, but we're making good time. In the end, you're still lost. To say we have a plan going on with Fields and everything else, and we have the pieces in order that we like, but we're lost, but we're making good time. In the end, you're still lost. It doesn't matter. And that's exactly what's going on with the Bears. It's beyond frustrating. And obviously it seems like I'm a Bears fan. I'm really not. I'm just happen to be in Bears country. So I have to hear it all the time about, oh no, they're going to be fine when Fields comes. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think it has to do with your GM. I think it has to do with Phillips. I think it has to do with Nagy, all of it.
Yeah, and that's the troubling aspect, is that pride seems to have taken over in a lot of this thing. And it's, well, we got to stick to our guns just to stick to our guns. Look, I've always said, I'm fine with people hanging on to rookie quarterbacks for a little bit, as long as that rookie quarterback doesn't give them the best chance to win. If the rookie, I don't think you just put a rookie quarterback out to put them out there. You put them out there if they're the better quarterback. And it's just clear at this point that Justin Fields gives you a better chance to win. Yes, maybe Andy Dalton won't throw as erratic of an interception as maybe Justin Fields will early on, because he's a more gunslinger mentality. But that's not, Justin Fields clearly gives you much better chance of getting the big play, getting the spark. And he had the touchdown in this game too, in his first snap or whatever. So it's like, it just doesn't make sense to keep holding on to that notion. And Kyle Brandt at NFL Network actually made a great point about this. He's like, I'm sick of hearing about how it worked with the Mahomes and using those examples about holding guys off. Yeah. Because you have a million other examples of guys that started when they were drafted and actually panned out. The Deshaun Watsons, the Cam Newtons, if you will. Those are guys that, okay, maybe they didn't, lead their teams to Super Bowls those rookie years, but they clearly panned out, and they were clearly amazing superstars from the get-go. This is a situation all in the same. I don't care if he was drafted 11th, Justin Fields, it's basically a top 2 pick if you count just the talent that he has. He's a guy that you got to throw out there, and he's a guy that has so much potential that really there's no reason at this point to be holding him back for a guy like Andy Dalton, especially a guy like Andy Dalton that didn't look very good in this game. He didn't look good. No, he didn't help. If he led a bunch of touchdown drives in this one and they still just got spanked because the defense sucked, okay, that's one thing. But it really wasn't that case. And I feel like if you had Justin Fields out there, we may be talking about a different situation or a much closer game than what ended up happening in this 20-point loss to the Rams.
I have a couple things to add on to that. One, if nobody in the coaching staff is saying, are we impeding progress by starting Andy Dalton over Fields? And no one can answer it because they are clearly.
Yeah.
Then that's a problem. You just have a coaching staff of sycophants that just go, oh, okay, that's our plan. Sounds good. We're just going to go forward. Would you rather have Carson Wentz or Justin Fields? Let me ask you that.
I would rather have Justin Fields, honestly, because I think the ceiling that Justin gives you is higher. And, there's more question marks right now around Carson Wentz, to be quite honest.
The only reason I bring that up is his numbers are so similar to Dalton's, but yet he threw for 2 touchdowns and Dalton threw for 0. So do you know what I'm saying? Like you keep making the comparisons of what is Dalton at right now compared to other starting quarterbacks. And they would easily move on, easily. Yeah. And it's beyond frustrating because it's dumb. I'm glad that Kyle Brandt brought that up because You only hear that Mahomes portion of it. They didn't they didn't bench Lamar Jackson because they wanted to make sure he got to a certain amount of snaps
Reps,
in
yeah,
practice.
yeah.
It was like, oh, we don't know if he's a quarterback, and we're in this old school way of thinking, and they got thrown into it. Justin Herbert, he got in week 2 because of being the punctured lung, and he did just fine. Like it's ridiculous to be like, well, Patrick Mahomes. That's the other thing.
Also, that was probably a mistake to not have Patrick Mahomes the whole season.
But on top of it, we all love Alex Smith. He's a great quarterback who weathered the storm of how many different OCs and head coaches through his entire thing. So Alex Smith is nobody that he sat behind, is no one to get upset about. And on top of it, Chicago, I don't want to hear about, well, they did it for Patrick Mahomes, when we all know, because we've all listened to it, you passed on him to take Mitchell Trubisky. So why would you bring up Patrick Mahomes, a situation that now is haunting you over and over again because of your blunders in the past? Ridiculous. Again, we're lost, but we're making good time.
Exactly.
It doesn't work out.
Exactly. Now it falls flat at every turn. Finally, let's just quickly touch on the Thursday night game that started off the NFL season here. Buccaneers eking out a 31-29 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Really thought Dallas looked good throughout this entire game, particularly Dak Prescott. Really sharp, very poised in the pocket. That guy was taking some shots and he delivered consistently. And they took the Buccaneers down to the wire here. But I guess at the end of the day, Jay, the big takeaway is, and it's been the same takeaway for the last 20 plus years, you do not give Tom Brady the football with any amount of time beyond maybe 20 seconds left in the game. And what it ended up being was the guy had so much time that he ended up throwing the ball away for 3 consecutive plays to get that game-winning field goal. So at the end of the day, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers still looked really sharp. Tom Brady looks like he's 30 years old. And Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, some of these older dudes really coming through big for Tampa Bay when it mattered most. So, yeah, this team looks as much of a force as it did last year.
Dak looked impressive. 42 of 58, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tom Brady threw for 379. Make sure you check the overs every time when Dallas is playing. The defense isn't that much better. I know they're going to get Zach Martin back from COVID. You nailed it. The announcers nailed it. It's plain and simple. Don't give him time. Don't give him time. Don't give him time. Don't give him the ball. I don't know why. It's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's all it was. Like, he looks good. Antonio Brown's going to be in the slot. He's like Wes Welker on steroids. Tampa Bay is going to be good. Dallas, they're in a division that's winnable. But again, I still think there's questions on that defense, and just Mike McCarthy. That's just dumb. Like, just dumb to give him the ball with that much time. And I have no faith in Mike McCarthy. He's a guy
that should know better. He's a guy that's been in the league for a long time. Like, this is something you'd expect out of, maybe a Nick Sirianni or, just someone who's brand new to this environment,
we got this.
But it's the overconfidence there. And I know, look, the defense has to do its job, but he's the greatest of all time for a reason. So you got to find a way to eat some more clock in that period. And to your point, they're going to have to win by their offense pretty much all throughout the season. Dallas is because their defense, at points looked okay and looked like maybe they're a little bit better, more improved. They also looked really bad at points too, where they gave up some really big plays that they absolutely shouldn't have. And so, the question mark going into this whole year is going to be, how is Dallas's defense going to match up with this offense? Because, we saw Dak play a nearly flawless game in terms of what he's been able to put on tape over the past several years. And yet it still wasn't enough. Guy puts up over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he had to throw 58 times. I mean, I don't care who you are, a quarterback. If you have to throw that many times, if this is something that they're going to have to keep doing, I don't think that bodes very well for their chances moving forward.
No.
So that's that does it for the entire week 1 slate. A lot of games, a lot of good games. Only a couple duds really throughout the whole week. So it was a good combination of some competition, as we mentioned earlier. Ended the same way it began, with some games right down to the wire. So now let's look ahead real quick, Jay, to just maybe a couple matchups that you're looking forward to, some lines that you're looking at, or over-unders that you're looking at that you think are some of the best bets of the week. I'll defer to you. I'll let you kind of throw one out there first, and then I'll kind of give my thoughts on one matchup or two.
I think right now the marquee matchup that we're going to be looking at, where I should be on as NFL fans, should be the Bills at Miami. All right, Bills go to 0-2. You're looking at like what's going on in Buffalo. Miami goes to 2-0. You're like, oh my goodness, they're in the driver's seat here. So Miami, that would put them in 2 wins in the division. Buffalo is the favorite on the road, so Miami's the home dogs. This is about right where I think it is at -3. 94% of the money is coming in on Buffalo to cover the 3, and 94% of the money, I apologize, 93% of the bets, the tickets sold. When I say that, I'm telling you because the money is where the pros are, all right? When I say tickets sold, that's where the amount of tickets are going. So it might be $20 or $30 bets here. If it's the money, that's where we want to pay attention to because we want to see where the professionals are. So it looks like the Bills should be favored. That looks like if you want to get in now. That probably should be pushed with a hook there soon at -3.5. But it will depend more about the money if it's like a 5-figure wager comes in or whatnot. I would assume we're looking for the Bills to get back on track after this one. And maybe I don't know how they could be overlooking the Steelers, but maybe they were looking more at a divisional game. And could there be a hangover from the Dolphins? I don't know, but they're at home. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most interesting matchups of the week in my mind, because if Miami wins, all of a sudden now we're looking at a situation where the Bills started 0-2, Miami's 2-0, and what are we going to be looking at in terms of how this division shakes up? Because you got the Patriots on the road to the Jets, you assume that they're going to win that game. They'll be 1-1. Miami will be atop then of the AFC East and a really good starting point for them. Meanwhile, Buffalo already starting with an uphill battle. That's a difficult situation for them to put themselves in, especially for a team that doesn't run the football particularly well, that has to pass a lot, that kind of makes their mark on that. If they go 0-2 and they're starting to play that way, they're going to probably have to find a different way to win some of these games and to approach it. I know that these divisional games can be a lot closer than most, but if the Dolphins pull out a win, I would probably go in with the Bills as my favorite, but I would want to probably shy away, honestly, from the spread on that one, just because I could see the Dolphins winning this game. I could see them money lining it, so that could be a potential option there. But it'd be one I just don't feel super comfortable with going into, at least. The one I'm staring down right now, and I'm going off of what ESPN's spreads and lines are.
Sure.
I believe they use Caesars Sportsbook. The Vikings Cardinals over under 51. I think I'm taking the over on that one, Jay. Viking, we saw what the Cardinals did this past week with their offense, but also, going up against the Vikings, whose defense hasn't looked very good. And Minnesota's a team that's going to have to score a lot of points to keep pace. I could easily see this being an over on that 51 pretty handily. So that's probably one I would be eyeing, something that catches my eye to start things off with for sure.
79% of the money is on the over. So the pros are in that. 80% of the tickets agree. 80% of the tickets agree on that over as well. You mentioned it, the defense wise, people are going to start thinking about Chandler Jones and 5 sacks. Come on. We're not doing that. Like, good for him. He can go break the record if he averages like 1.5 or 1.1 the rest of the way.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever done that back-to-back weeks. That would be insane.
The offensive weapons are just too much. I like the over here as well. After what's seen the Vikings defense, whatever else, the 4.5 is the interesting one. 93% of the money is on the Arizona to cover that. 75% of the tickets do that. And I think that actually has a lot more to do with the tickets coming in, because more in the Midwest, there are sports books than there are out in the Southwest. I know Vegas is right there, but that's where I think the tickets are. I'm speculating, but that's why I think I'm seeing 25% of the tickets on the Vikings. I like the Cardinals in this, and I do like the over as well. I agree with you.
Caesars has Green Bay as 10.5-point favorites at home against the Lions. That is a big spread. And given how the Lions played down the stretch with San Fran, I mean, is this one you would even be comfortable touching on? They have the over-under at 48, meanwhile.
This is a lot of points. I would look more to put this game in the teaser if you could. If you can get if you do a 3-team teaser, you can drop that down 10 points. You can do a 2-team. You can go anywhere from 6 to 7 points. Packers are going to get. So you said 10.5, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of points. That's a tough.
Well,
that's a tough one to cover.
My opinion is that they think the Packers are a touchdown favorite on a neutral field, and they're giving anywhere. Usually, the home field gets 2.5 or 3 points, but Lambeau gets something special.
Yeah.
Right, so they get the hook. So the 10.5 tells me that it's supposed to be that they're 7 points favored. 68% of the money is on the Packers to cover that. 65% of the tickets are on the Packers as well. The over at 48, 63% is on the money is on that. I don't like that over until I see that. I would stay away from the over under until I see what the Packers can do.
Yeah.
Okay, Jared Goff, you chucked the ball 57 times last week. He's going to have to do that again
because
they're going to have to do that again back-to-back weeks. But I guess it's a 1-day extra rest. He's gonna have to chuck it that much. And the Packers, again, I've said it all along. You and I have talked about it. Aaron Rodgers in an FU mode is not a good Aaron Rodgers. And if he can just get a little bit to get that to be contagious among the Packers, it could get ugly for the Lions right away.
Yeah, it definitely could. It could get out of hand early. So could really see it going multiple ways in this one. I'm going to wait and see how Green Bay responds before I entertain.
I agree with that.
Anything with the Packers for sure. Let's before we end the show here, Jay. Let's talk about this Thursday night matchup we've got coming up. I don't think many people are very excited about it. I'm certainly not. Giants at Washington. Washington, according to Caesars Sportsbook here, 3.5-point favorites to win this one. They got the over/under at 41. What are your thoughts on how this game shakes out? I mean, I would imagine we both have Washington winning. Whether or not how much they win by is probably the question, because now with the knowledge that it's probably going to be Taylor Heineke there as the starting quarterback, the Giants just got spanked. They're probably going to come in motivated in a divisional game. But, once again, it's that Washington front, really talented defense, and some weapons there in Washington as well. So initially, I would say I would probably take Washington here, but I think it's going to be fairly low scoring. I would probably put it at about like a 24-16 type of win there for Washington coming here into this Thursday night matchup. After week one, they only have a couple days till they got to get back at it.
Yeah, that's going to be that's going to be the concern about the over/under is not when does Danny Dimes fumble the ball. I think he's got 40 or 30. I think he's got
40 turnovers. 40 turnovers total in 28 starts. So he has 12 more turnovers than he has starts. But yeah, I'm not sure the exact number on fumbles, but it's definitely in the high 20s, if not like 30 or something. Because I think the majority.
I think it's 30. Yeah.
Yeah. Guy just can't hang on to the football.
So if he does it in his territory, that's the problem. You're going to see the over under get a little bit messed up there.
Against probably the most ferocious defensive front in the league too.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And they're going to want to come back after losing the Chargers. They're at home again. Giants are on the road. I like the Washington football team to cover this year. 68% of the money is on Washington. 67% of the total bets, the tickets sold, are on Washington football team as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably going to be one of the more low scoring affairs. I think we'll see. Watch them go and it be like a 55-40 game or something like that. I doubt that's going to happen, though. I would have it fairly low scoring. I agree with you. I would take them to cover the 3.5 points. I would probably take Washington to cover, anywhere from like about 5.5 as well. Because I could easily see them being, touchdown winners here by 6, 7, 8 points, depending on how things shake out throughout the game. But regardless, I have Washington winning. And like I said, I think my prediction's somewhere around 24-16. Do you have any thoughts on where you might put the final score?
Right now, I just want to say it is easily the lowest total of the week.
Yes.
The next closest one was 2.5. So where would I put this at? Giants get to 10, maybe. And yeah, I'm more at 21-10, 24-10.
There you go.
That's about it. Yeah.
We both got the under on that one as well. Just looking at it right
short
now.
Week, divisional game. They know each other. 24-10 sounds about right to me. 21-10. Yeah.
For sure. Close one there. Well, that just about does it here as we look forward to week 2 and get week 1 in the rear view mirror. Jay, thanks so much for joining, man. This has been a blast.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. You having me on your guys' show there over the past several years. We're happy to get you on here. Quickly plug your show, plug where viewers can go get your guys' content.
Sure. We're on Facebook Live. It's Don't Hassle Us, We're Local. We're also on YouTube as well. We're on noon to 2 CST, so at Central Standard Time. We are live. You guys, as we're talking, you guys can watch on Facebook. You can see the studio now that I'm in, and you can leave comments or whatever else. And doesn't matter where you guys are at. You can call in as well, 563-391-3776. Follow us on Twitter at QC Hassle. We put stuff out there, and you can also follow ESPN 1170 AM at ESPN 1170 AM. But yeah, feel free to, when you're on Facebook, if you work at home, a lot of you people still do, or you can even, you have the type of cubicle that you want to listen, go ahead. We not just do things in the area of Quad Cities, but we do a lot more. And definitely during football time, it's more about college football, professional football than it is more about the local stuff going around here. But we do say that we're local to global, and we'd love to have more listeners and more people to chime in and talk to us on the Facebook Live thread. So I appreciate you asking me to do this. I had a blast.
Absolutely, man. Definitely we'll put you on that list here in the reserves if we ever, run into a situation again. So yeah, glad to have you.
I'll be your Taylor Heineke anytime.
There we go. Yes, very much appreciate it. You are the big money guy right there, getting us the big plays. Appreciate it. That'll do it for this edition of the Football Lounge. Be sure to follow us as always on social media. Check out our YouTube page as well if you are listening to this podcast. We are available on all streaming sites as well on YouTube as well. So be sure to check us out. Have a great week of football, and we'll see you back here next week.